Ridouan Taghi was born in 1977 in Beni Selmane, a town in northern Morocco. His family moved to the Netherlands in 1980. Young Ridouan grew up between two worlds, rooted in family traditions, yet confronted with the challenges of integration, poverty, and identity in urban Dutch life. As a teenager, Taghi's behavior gradually moved from petty delinquency toward more serious offenses. Early arrests for minor thefts, weapons possession, or associating with known criminals marked the beginning of his criminal trajectory. The street taught him lessons: power, risk, and silence. By his early adulthood, Ridouan Taghi had begun involvement in drug trafficking. The cocaine trade, particularly, was growing as a high-profit, high-risk venture in the Netherlands. Taghi exploited networks, connections, and the porous nature of international cocaine supply routes. Taghi rose to prominence as a leader in what media calls the Mocro Mafia, a network dominated by people of Moroccan or North African descent, but inclusive of others: drug traffickers, smugglers, financiers. He fostered loyalty through money, fear, and reputation. Taghi developed methods to avoid capture, using false passports, changing appearance, staying off the grid. He shifted locations, often abroad, but maintained control over his criminal enterprise. For years, he was one of the Netherlands' most wanted criminals. Authorities gradually gathered evidence suggesting Taghi was orchestrating multiple murders and other serious crimes through his network. The case that would become known as the Marengo trial began taking shape. Investigators had to untangle a web of associates, finances, encrypted communications, and threats. In the world Taghi built, violence wasn't random. It was a message. Assassinations, threats, and killings weren't just to eliminate competition or snitches. They were tools of control, signals to the rest of the underworld and any potential informants. Taghi's organization wasn't local only. They leveraged the Netherlands' strategic position, major ports like Rotterdam, connections to Latin American suppliers, and international smuggling networks. These routes and methods gave the cartel strength, wealth, and reach. One of the breakthroughs in the Marengo case involved encrypted phone data. Deriving metadata, mapping contacts, identifying encrypted messages turned into a forensic art. Cutting through layers of secrecy required collaboration between tech experts, law enforcement, and international partners. Several associates either died, disappeared, or turned state witness. Within Taghi's circle, every betrayal carried a lethal risk. To maintain loyalty, fear, and reward were combined. The trust structure in his organization was both extremely fragile and strictly enforced. Investigative reporter Peter R. de Vries became involved in the case, assisting a key witness. His involvement exposed him to danger. In 2021, he was shot in Amsterdam in what many believed was linked to his role exposing Taghi's network. His fate galvanized public outrage. Attorneys representing witnesses, prosecutors, or even family members were at risk. One such case, the murder of a lawyer, Derk Wiersum, which occurred in connection with the Marengo trial. It illustrated how deeply rooted Taghi's threat network was, extending beyond direct violence to terrorizing those trying to uphold the law. Given the severity and risks of the case, the trial took place in De Bunker, a high-security courthouse. Judges remained anonymous. Defendant transport was heavily guarded. Threats lingered outside. This trial wasn't just legal, it was symbolic. The state's stand against organized crime. A key witness in the trial, known publicly as Nabil B., surrendered to police. His testimony implicated Taghi in several murders and gave inside views of how the organization functioned. The pressure on him led to retaliation. His family was targeted. Some were killed. His courage was central to the state's case. The Marengo trial charged Taghi and associates with multiple murders, liquidaties, and attempted murders. These included hits on rivals, former allies, suspected informants. The scale and method attracted public horror. Organized, methodical, often brutal. Over years, police built up evidence: phone taps, surveillance, financial trails, witness statements. International cooperation, raids, intelligence from abroad, all chipped away at Taghi's shield. Slowly, he was pushed toward exposure. Media reports, documentaries, public debates grew. Citizens demanded safety. Politicians called for tougher laws. The murders of public figures, like Wiersum and Vries, made the issue impossible to ignore. Taghi's name became synonymous with fear and lawlessness in the Netherlands. Even after arrest, Taghi's alleged influence didn't vanish. Authorities claimed he continued to order and plan using intermediaries. Communications from prison were monitored. His network showed resilience. Removing the boss didn't immediately collapse the entire system. The trial saw moments of denials by Taghi, legal defenses challenging the credibility of witnesses, arguments about procedure, legality, evidence handling. At the same time, there were confessions from associates, sometimes under legal deals, that undercut parts of his defense. The courtroom drama showcased how difficult it is to prosecute top crime figures. Within Taghi's environment, trust was scarce. Spies, mole-like behavior, betrayals, real and suspected, led to paranoia. People lived in fear of being followed, killed, or exposed. This psychological pressure weighed on both criminals and law enforcement trying to pierce through the cloak of secrecy. Tracking where drug profits went was critical. Taghi was accused of funneling money through various fronts: real estate, businesses, international bank transfers. The effort to freeze assets and follow the money helped build a picture of his empire's infrastructure. Although direct proof is often hard to surface, in many major criminal cases, there are allegations or suspicions of enabling corruption, law enforcement leaks, bribery, intimidation. Taghi's reach allegedly touched parts of legitimate structures, helping him hide or delay detection. Beyond headlines are the lives lost: innocent people, bystanders, rival criminals, failed business partners, tongue-tied witnesses. Each murder brought families pain, fear, unanswered questions. These personal tragedies humanized what could otherwise become abstract numbers. Fear increased in certain neighborhoods. People worried about gang shootings, drive-by hits, crime escalation. The Marengo trial wasn't isolated. It reflected tensions in urban life, integration, policing, migration, inequality. Because evidence was numerous but complex, legal proceedings stretched over years. Appeals, procedural challenges, securing anonymous witnesses, verifying encrypted communications, all contributed to delays. These delays frustrated the public, victims' families, and challenged the legal system. Taghi's organization suffered betrayals from within. Some associates, under threat or pressure, chose to cooperate with law enforcement. These insiders provided critical evidence, but also risked their own safety, often under witness protection. Their decisions shifted power balances. Two names that struck the heart of Dutch society: lawyer Derk Wiersum, killed in 2019, and crime reporter Peter R. de Vries, shot in 2021. Both connected to Taghi's case through their work with witnesses. These assassinations underline the attack not just on individuals, but on justice and free speech. In response to violence and public pressure, measures were taken: strengthening witness protection programs, enhancing encryption-busting capabilities, increasing funding for police units focused on organized crime. Laws and policies were debated and adjusted. When the verdict finally began, the public attention was immense. Security was tight. Journalists, victims' families, the accused, law enforcement, all were present under watchful eyes. Outside, crowds, protests, media vans. It was more than a trial. It was a national reckoning. On 27 February 2024, Ridouan Taghi was sentenced to life in prison. Judges described him as the undisputed leader of a murder organization. Many others were convicted in his network, some with life sentences, others with long prison terms. The verdict solidified what law enforcement had built toward: a public conclusion to a long fight. Not only Taghi, but several co-defendants were handed severe punishments. The scale of penalties showed that justice was not only targeting the head, but many limbs of the criminal body. Some sentences were life, others long-term. Witnesses like Nabil B. received protection and sentence for cooperation. For many, the verdict offered relief. Justice had been served, at least in court. But others remained cautious. Convictions can be appealed. Networks can survive leadership removal. Criminal markets adapt. The public's trust in law enforcement was strengthened, but also reminded of fragility. Now imprisoned, Taghi's ability to directly run operations is curtailed, but whispers persist that some control remains. Former lieutenants may try to fill vacuums. New rivalries emerge. The question: how deep was his empire, and how long until new power structures take over? Documentaries, news specials, interviews, books are being made. Taghi's life, the investigation, and the trial furnish rich material for crime shows and investigative journalism. But dramatization risks sensationalism. Myth-making risks overshadowing victim stories. Some analysts see the rise of Mocro Mafia as tied to marginalization. Immigrant communities, limited economic opportunity, social isolation. Taghi's narrative prompts deeper societal questions. How do you prevent young people from getting drawn into organized crime? Within communities touched by the criminal underworld, fear silences people. Witnesses stay quiet. Distrust of police or authorities, coercion. Breaking that silence often means risking everything: life, family, safety. Taghi's operation depended on transnational smuggling networks, cross-border money laundering, international intelligence cooperation. The trial and arrest benefited from collaborations: Interpol, foreign law enforcement, intelligence exchanges. The challenge: borders cannot hold back global crime. Though proving corruption is hard, there have been claims in the media and court filings about possible collusion or negligence among officials. Whether these are fully substantiated or exaggerated, they add to public distrust and the perception that criminal bosses can exploit gaps in oversight. Beyond headlines, the trail of bodies extends. Murdered associates, innocent bystanders, people who refuse to participate, people who were in the wrong place at wrong time. The true human cost is immeasurable. Gang-related violence, the cost of investigations, law enforcement, policing, legal expenses, these cost taxpayers heavily. There's also economic costs. Businesses intimidated, investment deterred, insurance, property values. In response to these crises, community groups, NGOs, journalists, and some politicians pushed for reform. Better policing, youth outreach, social programs. Efforts to reduce recruitment into gangs, to offer legitimate opportunities. Some neighborhoods saw progress. Others remain vulnerable. The Marengo case becomes a case study. The importance of encrypted data, infiltrating crime networks, protecting witnesses, prosecutions even with risk, and balancing civil liberties with security. Not everything is clear. Was all of Taghi's influence effectively cut? What happened to all his illicit wealth? Which crimes remain unsolved? Who rises after him? The shadows of his actions linger. The case forces society to remember not just the bosses, but the victims, the corruption, the vulnerability of institutions. It spurs moral reckoning. How much compromise was made? How many warnings ignored? How many lives lost in the dark? Ridouan Taghi is behind bars, life sentence imposed. But peace is fragile. The underworld's ecosystem is adaptive. New actors, new methods, new threats will emerge. The victory is substantial, but vigilance remains essential.